Welcome everybody to AMAZE Live. I think this is our very first live that is actually like in person to humans. I'm Christine Coe, and this is Phyllis Fagell. Welcome,
Thank
Phyllis.
you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is very exciting. We are in the headquarters of Advocates for Youth, and AMAZE just wrapped up a big meeting. So if you had seen the photo that we posted earlier, that was all us, and we're just so delighted to have Phyllis here because we are talking about her book, Middle School Matters. And as some of you might recall, in the last couple weeks on Twitter and here on Facebook, we were asking for questions about like burning middle school questions. And I'm sure you get this all the time.
Oh, and I'm so excited. It's real tweens questions.
Yes.
And that you got so many. It's
Yes. Well, so let's just start. I would love for you to just share a little bit about your background with our audience in case people are new to you. I know people were just like excited you were coming, but for those who don't know, you tell us how you got, what was the path to get you to this book?
So I am a school counselor by day, and I moonlight as a journalist. I write a column that runs in several different places, but I write pretty frequently for the Washington Post and other publications. And my most recent project is Middle School Matters, which is a book kind of summarizing my experiences both in private practice. I also do see kids in private practice still and in a school setting.
Awesome, awesome. Well, so and I should read the subtitle to everyone because it's Middle School Matters: the 10 key skills kids need to thrive in middle school and beyond, and how parents can help. And I'm a big listicle person, so I was like, yes, a list. um, and I will say just to frame up that one of the things that I really love about this book, you started with the foundations of values and integrity, which is like seriously important. And also, I want to read folks this quote from the introduction because I just feel like it was a little bit like comforting. So you write, yes, middle school is messy, dramatic, and confusing at times, but it's also the perfect time to proactively build character and confidence. Like, I don't know, do you have a comment on that statement? Do you just feel like, even though you're in the weeds with kids all the time, like that you can still see the good like in every day?
100%. I think that middle school has this undeserved, terrible reputation. It's this time we should dread, and I think a lot of people fear it and maybe take a step back. And instead, I think it can be a really joyful time of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids are raring to go and enthusiastic, and they're so connected to adults still and
Yep.
want to learn and watching everything we do. So it's this prime opportunity to just get in there and get our hands dirty and parent. We just have to do it differently than
Right.
we did when we were
Right.
younger.
Well, okay, so we're going to tackle some crowdsourced questions in just a second, but I'm just so curious in your work. What are like the one or two most common questions you get from parents?
So I think that probably the most common question I get is from parents who are insecure about their role, which often changes significantly between elementary and middle school. Maybe their kids don't reveal as much, or they're struggling more academically, or they're having trouble navigating all of the social churn. And in elementary school, they might have been able to jump in and solve it for them. And suddenly that just doesn't seem quite appropriate anymore. So they're really trying to figure out how they can encourage their independence and autonomy, but still support them, how they can do that. And then I would say the second most common question relates to anxiety, helping kids manage all of these changes. And there really are a tremendous number of changes going on in every realm, from the physiological to the neurological to the emotional to the moral to the athletic. I mean, everything is changing. And so
And later on technology.
and
that's
later on
like a whole other
technology,
thing.
yes. So they're looking for helping
Yes.
their children manage all of those changes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so we're going to get to our questions, but I just wanted to remind folks if you're joining, and also if you're joining later, because I know a lot of people come to the live later, which is totally fine. If you have a question for Phyllis, just drop it in the comment, and we will get them answered live if you happen to be here with us right now, or we'll answer them later. So I mentioned the subtitle is 10 Key Skills, and it's not surprising, perhaps. First on the list of your 10 key skills to help kids thrive is beyond making good friendships. You devote 5 chapters to social skills. There's friendships. There's a lot, right? So I want to touch on a couple questions related to friendship. Two are from middle schoolers. One is from a parent. The two of these questions are related, so I'll ask them together. Some kid asks, How can I deal with my friends changing? They've started acting tough and cool and showing off and being mean at times, and I just don't get it. And then the parent sort of parallel to that is like, so how do I talk to my middle schooler about how do I support them through these changing friendships?
So I love that question, and I'll answer it for both of them at once. First, for the middle schooler who is wondering what is happening to their friends, one of the things that happens when you go from elementary to middle school is that instead of finding friends based on proximity because you're close to each other, you suddenly have to actually find common interests. And the kids that you relate to because there's something that you share in common. And so that is a really fundamental challenge for middle schoolers, figuring out where they fit. And in the process of making that transition, a lot of kids also view it as a time to branch out, or maybe as a time to reinvent themselves. Maybe they were a really theater-oriented kid or music-oriented kid in elementary school, and suddenly they want to hang out with sportier kids or more academically inclined kids. So there can be a lot of shifting and changes. So I'm going to share a few statistics for the tween who asked the question that I think are reassuring. The first is that only 1% of friendships from 7th grade are still enduring in 12th grade. That doesn't sound reassuring at
Wow.
first.
Okay.
That, right?
I'm a little shocked, but yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, only 75% of friendships in middle school last from fall to spring.
Wow. Okay.
And friendships in middle school are shifting and changing in 2-week intervals. And the reason I think that this is a reassuring statistic is that you are not alone. Everyone is in the exact same boat, and everybody is shifting around. And sometimes when kids have that much shifting going on, and they're trying to reinvent themselves, or they're trying to fit in with a different crowd, sometimes it can try out some new behavior, and that can feel really bad and unrecognizable to their friends.
Interesting. Well, actually, it's interesting you were talking about that kind of like how to break in, because another question we got from a middle schooler was, how can I get better at talking to other kids my age that I don't know well? I try and start conversations, but they seem to get bored and walk away. Like, just as a parent, it's a bit heartbreaking.
Hard.
It's so real. Like, I remember that happening to me.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone on the planet who hasn't felt that way at one point or another. So first, I want to commend them for being brave, because we as adults tend to underrate how hard it is to take social risks. And some kids can't even make that first move and try to connect with people. So I want you to keep trying that and keep moving forward, because you will eventually find the right fit friends. But you do want to take a look at your approach. So assuming you're correctly interpreting the interaction, and often middle schoolers will veer toward the negative and will read boredom, or will read that somebody isn't interested and they're wrong. That person might just be awkward, or that person might not know what to say in return, or might actually want to be their friend but is taken by surprise by that person initiating the interaction. So I wouldn't jump to immediately concluding that the person doesn't want to be your friend, but you do want to look at your social skills. So middle school is a great time to really think about what are friendship makers versus friendship breakers. So a lot of times in middle school, kids will try to impress each other, which is really not the way to connect with somebody. You're going to get much farther if you ask a lot of questions and show interest in them, and if you really show that you value them and you're flexible. It doesn't have to be your way or the highway. So take a good hard look at how you are interacting with those other kids, and are you looking for common ground? If they're wearing a shirt with a band that you can talk about that. Sometimes kids are really awkward about entering conversations, so you want to take a minute and listen to what people are saying before you jump in, so that you're not misreading the tone. So if they're all talking about how a test is hard, and you walk up and you say, "Well, I thought it was easy,"
right?
It's going to fall flat. So
Yes.
being a little patient and waiting and looking for the right opening.
Yeah.
And parents can really help kids think about those social skills, and in real time when they're interacting with them, offer some feedback in a gentle way.
Well, so that's actually I have a related question, because this is making me think about. So I know when my older daughter, when we went from elementary school, you're in it, you're at the playground, you see people all the time, and then middle school was like all of a sudden they're on the bus, you never see anybody anymore. anymore, right?
So true.
So when you have younger kids, really parents are kind of like helping to kind of make those friendships. You know, you schedule a play date and whatever. At middle school, do you suggest that parents resist that urge to step in and try to kind of help construct social situations and just like let their kids figure it out on their own?
I think parents can give an assist, but it has to be an assist.
Okay.
They're coaching instead of managing. So if your child is having trouble making friends and they're on a soccer team and they've connected with a kid on the team, you can take them out for ice cream afterwards or out for lunch.
Yes.
Or if there are families with other kids in the neighborhood who have kids your child's age, you could organize a pop-up
Yes.
for all of the families. If your child is very awkward in one-on-one conversations and target friends would find them either too difficult to interact with or too much, you can steer them toward activities like bowling that maybe don't require as much interaction, but you do want to
Smart.
be making sure that they are interacting with kids
Yeah.
and working on those social skills.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think there's, I think it's all well-meaning, but I think for a lot of parents, it's hard not to like want to jump in and rescue,
Oh,
Tempting.
yes, we want to make our kids' lives perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so the perfect segue, we're moving from friendships into big feelings. So, let's talk about self-regulating emotions. This is number 7 on your list of key skills that kids, need to like master to thrive. In middle school, and I will say beyond, this is like human life skills across the continuum you're
100%.
So the question we got from a middle schooler is, how can I understand and deal with my big angry emotions? I'm suddenly feeling.
It's so
How
hard.
can I?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah, this is a question you will be asking for your entire life because any kind of big feeling is difficult. And in middle school, suddenly they're so much more intense and they're so polarizing. You can be a 10 or you can be a 1, but you're probably experiencing things I've been experiencing. That goes for the positive emotions too, excitement, joy, pride. So you do want to be holding on to those good ones as long as possible. But for those negative ones, number 1, to recognize that feelings are fleeting. They don't last forever. They don't last at the same intensity. They're not who you are. They're how you're responding to a situation, and it's good information.
Yeah.
So you want to be looking at that feeling and finding a way to use it to make yourself feel better. So a feeling can be a friend or a feeling can be an enemy, depending on how you react to it. So feelings in and of themselves don't carry value. I think a lot of people are afraid to admit that they're jealous or that they're ashamed of something because there are some emotions that feel more loaded to kids and to adults.
Yep.
And there's no value judgment on the feeling itself. It's what you do with it. So if you are afraid and that means you opt out of trying something or you give up, then it's not serving you. If you're afraid but you dive in anyway and find an appropriate risk that you can tolerate, then you're going to be moving in the right direction. Or if you're really sad, you can see it as a signal, I could use some help. That's a good reason for me to reach out to somebody for help. If you're jealous and you use that to justify lashing out at somebody or being vengeful or doing something on social media, you're more likely to regret that. But if you can take that feeling and say, how can I make myself feel better? How can I focus on my strengths? What can I do that will make me feel less a sense of lacking, as opposed to focusing on what I don't have or what they have that I perceive I don't have, then you are going to manage those big feelings so much more helpfully.
Yeah, and sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot about this, but I learned a lot this past year about how important finding like a passion or something that you're really into as a kid is a really incredible stress mediator. So I don't know, like if you have thoughts about that, like as far as channeling the importance of, if you're having big angry feelings and you're frustrated all the time, like do you find that a lot of kids can help, manage that through some kind of activity or passion that they're
Yes, I think there are a few ways that you can manage it. One is by distracting yourself. I will tell kids often they are better off cleaning the room or going for a run or listening to music rather than rehashing an upsetting incident with a friend, which can keep them marinating in it.
Yes.
But they also can really start to track in middle school their coping strategies, the ones that work for them. And I really encourage parents to be vocal when they're using a coping mechanism that helps them. So a parent could say, right now I'm so stressed and all I want to do is just hide out and talk to no one, but I'm gonna journal right now, and I'm gonna write down my feelings and try to process them and understand them that way. So really taking the time to point out what works for you, and also pointing out what you see that works for them. So if a child is stressed, and they always are stressed when they come home from school, maybe they're an introvert and all of that energy has really drained them, but they do fine if they take a bike ride right after school. It would really serve that child well to tell them. I noticed that every time you come home and take a bike ride, once you get off the bus, you are much more healed for the rest of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. All right, well, we're going to move on to some parent questions. And I just want to remind folks that if you have a question for Phyllis, feel free to drop it in the comments. If you're coming to this broadcast later and we're not like actually here anymore, I will help get your questions answered. Okay, so this one is about homework. I will say create homework and organization systems, number 4 on the list. I did my homework. So the question from the parents, and my parenting work through this one all the time. This parent says, I am so over nagging my kid about their homework and dealing with homework related crises. How can I help my kid learn to get their work done?
So,
like in 10 minutes.
I think one of the misconceptions parents have about kids this age is that if they're not doing their work, that they're lazy, that they have a bad work ethic. And task initiation is a skill that really doesn't kick in until 9th or 10th grade.
Yeah.
So first, let go of this notion that you are raising this lazy child who doesn't want to do well. Homework is about control. It is never worth wrecking your evening or your family time by fighting over homework. If there really is a consistent chronic problem, you want to be contacting the school. It's not your job as a parent to assess whether they've written enough or whether the quality is high enough. That is what the teachers can do. What parents can do is set the stage for success. So parents can make sure that there is an uncluttered workspace. They can make sure all of the supplies that they need are on hand. They can help them organize their time, maybe talk them through how long do you think it will take you to do these 10 math problems. Do you want to take a break before you get started? They can help them assess whether it makes more sense for them to work maybe in the kitchen next to them, whereas some other kids might be able to go and work on their own independently. So recognizing that different middle schoolers will have different needs, and if they're really struggling, you want to be looking for the root cause. Why are they frustrated? Does the homework feel relevant? Would they rather be gaming? Would they rather be, are they trying to avoid to their ego because they don't know how to do it?
Yes.
Are they having trouble breaking down the instructions? That's something parents can help with. Do they not absorb the content and they need to sit down with their parent and write an email to the teacher? If they're able to do the email on their own, great. A lot of middle schoolers at the beginning of middle school need their parents to actually write that email and model it for them, but have them sit next to you. And then there's some fun tricks. There are studies that show that kids who have a particular gear that they wear just for studying,
like homework uniform.
like a homework uniform, a special pair of glasses or a hat. And they've done work with adults who wear a lab coat. When you tell them that it's a doctor's coat, they will actually focus longer.
Oh my gosh.
But you have to take it off when you're not doing the homework. And you can also do things like name the planner to make it fun. Like, what does Jake say you have to do today? You can have imaginary advisors, who is a role model who they can consult in the moment. And you can focus on what their strengths are and, help them recognize that while math might be hard, maybe they're a great leader on the sports field. And what would that persona on the sports field advise that kid who's feeling really incompetent about the math homework?
Right.
So just to kind of shift the mindset.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'll also just suggest to, our parents tuning in that, one thing that I just learned from experience is that you have to remember, like, each kid is going to be different, right? So my older daughter is like super self-motivated, she'll just like go do her homework. And then the little one was like complaining about these things that were like super easy. And I knew she could do them. And we realized that she just needed someone next to her. Like,
That's great.
Just doing something else, but just next to her. She just wanted company. And once we realized that, all of a sudden the sort of battles kind of like evaporated.
And I think it's important to remember that parents can question homework.
Yeah.
So if you're not seeing the connection between the content and furthering their learning, or if you think that they could tie it into something that your kid is really interested in and make it feel more relevant, there's no harm in asking. One of the stories I share in the book is from an expert time when his kid was really struggling with a diorama assignment.
Oh, the diorama.
Yes, the diorama, and he had issues with fine motor skills, and he was supposed to suspend things from the ceiling of his shoebox. And for him, it didn't really further his learning in terms of the academic content, and all it was doing was frustrating him. So he contacted the teacher, and they found another way for him to further his knowledge without having to use all of these fine motor skills that were a challenge for him.
Oh my gosh, that is so fascinating. That was really interesting. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to hit on, and then of course if there's anything we have missed, I for sure want you to bring it up, but is communication, and we've got a couple questions related to reticence. So I'll just read them both out.
Yeah.
So one parent wrote, I asked my middle schooler how their day was, and the typical answer is short and sweet. Good. What other ways can I start a conversation about what's happening in their life in an organic way? And so that one I feel like has a little positive spin. The kid's just being brief. And then the other question was, how do you engage resistant middle schoolers in conversation? What are some tips to get them to listen or talk, especially when they're going through puberty and have symptoms like body odor or whatever else that might just be making them uncomfortable?
Sure. So there's a couple misconceptions I think parents have. One is that if they don't want to talk, they don't want to talk at all. And often parents are asking kids questions right when they come home from school. And we talked about how they're navigating so much intensity and so much social churn, as we saw from those first questions. So parents need to be open to the possibility that you're going to have to do it on the kids' time. So
Yes.
they may not want to talk after school. They may want to talk when you are paying bills or cleaning dishes, and you don't want to talk yourself when you're fried.
Right.
So this is an age when you have to really be available and accessible and put away our electronics and give them our full attention when they're ready. They also are increasingly private, and they're also trying to feel more grown up. So if they suspect that what we're asking will either lead to judgment or criticism, or will be prying too much and they don't know where we're going, or doesn't value them as the expert in their own lives, and they're going to shut down. So I would recommend putting in a little emotional distance in those questions. One of the stories that really resonated for me is a friend who said her kid was in the grunting stage. So she would ask a question, and he was in seventh grade, and he'd go,
Yeah.
He wouldn't even give the good.
It wasn't even a word.
It wasn't even a word. And she was asking him things like, what did you learn today?
Yeah.
Which seemed so innocuous to her. But she tried flipping it and saying, what did the teacher talk about? Which is such a subtle shift. And suddenly he started talking.
Wow. Okay.
It was that subtle. And she asked him, I've noticed you're talking again. Is it because I'm not being so direct? And he said, yeah. So you can you can bring up stories in the news. You can use characters from a movie. If they introduce a topic about a friend, you can jump in. You really want to seize on any chance to talk about things in a way that they're comfortable with. They may be better if there's no eye contact, like in the car, playing video games, shooting hoops.
Yes.
But a lot of this requires patience and really understanding the developmental phase, and understanding that they believe you have the right to know things related to safety, but they don't think you have a right to know if they have a crush.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they want to tell you that, great. And if they don't, this is a time when you need to accept that.
So interesting. And I have to just +1 or whatever we want to do. Your comment about no eye contact. That is something actually I've talked a lot about Nora Gilbert, who's one of our educational people here, and we've talked about that a lot. That sometimes in parallel is easier. And I wanted to say that short conversations are better than no conversations, right? So it can literally be like the 5-minute trip to the grocery store, and just embrace that. Like you could learn a lot in just a couple minutes.
Definitely. And I had a teen tell me, she's now 16, but she was reflecting on when she was in 7th grade. And one of her best memories is of her mom really attending to her when she's upset about an extremely minor incident. And it stuck with her precisely because it was so small. I think we spend a lot of time as parents really talking about the bigger subjects. I think we need to hit on, making sure we have the sex talk, one and done, or making sure that we are talking about grades or relationships and these big picture themes. And in fact, I think kids are really looking to connect on the really low level stuff.
Right.
And then they're going to come to you with the bigger, higher level stuff.
Yes. And that those low level, I like the way you frame it like that, but that's almost like the foundation you kind of need to build in order to like get their trust a little bit. Would you say? Does that
Yes,
sound like it?
especially if you're not reactive.
Yeah.
If you can keep that poker face and, you know, kids are looking for any sign of inconsistency. So if your tone doesn't match your body language or what you're saying, you're going to come off as inauthentic.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the best ways we can be authentic is to share stories from our own lives.
Yeah.
And times we've had similar struggles. That same girl told me that one of the best parts of that conversation was that her mom shared a story about when she felt excluded. And she said, you know, if my mom, who is smart and awesome, could struggle with friends when she was my age and be okay and still be smart and awesome, then I'm going to be okay too.
Oh man, that's the
Yeah.
secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
This was so delightful. Is there anything major, you know, that we didn't cover? I feel like there were like a million golden nuggets, and I could talk to you for like many more minutes. But anything major that you wanted to share about the book, other than I'm gonna just tell everybody to go like get the book because it's awesome. But
No, I think that maybe the last takeaway would just be, yeah, tweens are just like us.
yeah,
Only they have no life experience and no perspective, but they don't want to be judged. They want to be heard. They're really no different than we are. And if we can just keep that in mind, that sometimes we come home from work and we don't want to talk to anyone, that I think we're going to get a lot farther as parents in terms of the communication piece.
well, I think that is the perfect closing rally cry. Thank you, Phil, so much for
Thank you.
taking the time for coming into our office live, and this was just such a delightful conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, take care, guys.
Bye.